Welcome back to our channel, World Coins History. As you knew that old is gold, but these rare Lincoln wheat pennies coin that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them. You're lucky if you have one of these, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1. Today, we're digging deep into one of the most iconic and mysterious coins ever minted in the United States, the 1941 Lincoln wheat penny. At first glance, this humble 1-cent coin might seem like just another old penny lost in your pocket change, but trust me, there's more to it than meets the eye. Stick with us, because by the end of this video, you'll find out why collectors around the world are paying big money for this coin. And yes, we'll reveal just how much one rare version of this penny has sold for. Spoiler alert, it's jaw-dropping. Let's start with the basics. The 1941 Lincoln wheat penny was minted during a pivotal time in American history. The U.S. was just about to enter World War II, and everything, from the economy to production, was focused on wartime efforts. Despite that, over 1 billion wheat pennies were struck in 1941 across 3 mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Now, you might be thinking, if over 1 billion were made, what makes it special? Here's where it gets exciting. While most of these pennies are common, especially the ones that have been heavily circulated, the real treasure lies in the details. You see, a small number of 1941 Lincoln wheat pennies have rare errors and minting anomalies that make them extremely valuable. Point 1 of the most sought after is the double die error. Imagine this: Lincoln's profile or the date, 1941, appears slightly doubled, like a shadow or echo. This isn't damage from wear, but a mistake during the minting process. These double die errors are incredibly rare and highly desirable among collectors. If you spot one, it could be your lucky day. Another rare feature to look for is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin isn't perfectly aligned during minting, causing part of the design to appear shifted or missing. The more dramatic the error, and the better the condition, the more valuable the coin. But that's not all. Some 1941 pennies were minted on the wrong planchets. These are coins that were accidentally struck on metal blanks meant for other denominations or even foreign coins. These rare mismatches can turn a humble penny into a collector's dream. Let's talk about condition, because it matters a lot. A 1941 penny found in pocket change today is likely scratched, faded, or worn down. But a coin that has never been circulated, stored safely since the day it was minted, with all its original shine and sharp details, is what collectors call mint state. These are graded on a scale, and a MS 67 or higher 1941 penny, especially with an error, becomes significantly more valuable. Collectors and dealers are constantly searching through old rolls of pennies, estate sales, and coin shows just for a chance to uncover one of these rare beauties. It's the thrill of the hunt, knowing that one special coin might still be out there, hiding in plain sight. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. Believe it or not, one of the rarest known versions of the 1941 Lincoln wheat penny, because of its flawless condition and unique mint error, was once sold for an unbelievable $540,000. That's right. A single copper coin, worth just 1 cent when it was made, has reached a value that could buy a house, a luxury car, or even pay off a mortgage. Top 2, we're turning our spotlight on a seemingly ordinary coin, the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln wheat penny from the year 1952. At first glance, it might look like just another copper coin from Grandma's coin jar. But once we dive into its history, rare variations, and fascinating errors, you'll see why collectors around the world are hunting for this penny, and in some cases, paying life-changing amounts for it. So sit back, grab your favorite coin magnifier, and let's journey into the story of the 1952 Lincoln wheat penny. Let's begin with a little background. The Lincoln wheat penny was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, and what a fitting tribute it was. With the now iconic profile of Lincoln on the front, and those 2 wheat ears flanking the words, 1 cent, on the back, the coin became a patriotic symbol of American strength and values. Fast forward to 1952, a post-World War II America was booming, and the U.S. Mint was producing these pennies in large numbers. That year, the Lincoln wheat penny was struck at 3 locations: the Philadelphia Mint, which bears no mint mark, the Denver Mint, marked with a small d, and the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S. In total, hundreds of millions of these coins were produced, which might make you wonder, how could something so common be valuable? Well, here's where things get very, very interesting. While most 1952 pennies were indeed mass-produced and heavily circulated, only a small fraction have survived in exceptional condition. And even fewer contain minting errors or unusual variations, and these are the coins that collectors crave. One of the most fascinating things about coin collecting is how small imperfections from the mint can turn a regular coin into a rare treasure. For example, some 1952 pennies were struck with double die errors. This means during the minting process, the die struck the coin twice, but slightly misaligned. The result? A noticeable doubling in the date, the word liberty, or the motto, "In God We Trust." If you ever spot one of these, you're looking at a true rarity. Another type of error is the off-center strike, where the coin design isn't properly aligned with the blank planchet. This results in part of the design being cut off, and in many cases, creates a visually striking and unique piece. The more extreme the off-center strike, especially while still showing a full date, the more valuable it becomes. Then there's the wrong planchet error, which is incredibly rare. This happens when a penny is mistakenly struck on a metal blank meant for another denomination. Imagine finding a 1952 wheat penny struck on a dime-sized planchet or a foreign coin blank. These rare mistakes are like lightning in a bottle, and collectors will pay thousands just to get their hands on one. Now let's talk about condition. Most pennies from 1952 that you'll find today are worn out from decades of circulation. But a coin in mint state, meaning it was never used and still has that original luster from the day it was struck, can be extremely valuable. Coins graded MS-65, MS-66, or even MS-67 by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC are considered investment quality pieces, and if you combine rare condition with a dramatic mint error, well, that's when the magic really happens. Collectors are always on the hunt for those rare gems, scouring estate sales, flea markets, old bank rolls, and forgotten collections. The joy of coin collecting isn't just in the money, it's in the story, the history, the art of the minting process, and the thrill of the search. So, what's the ultimate value? While many 1952 wheat pennies might sell for a few dollars or even a few hundred in great condition, one extraordinary example, featuring a flawless strike, rare mint error, and near-perfect preservation, has been appraised and sold for a jaw-dropping $540,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single 1-cent coin, minted over 70 years ago, has been valued at over $500,000. Incredible, isn't it? That's the beauty of numismatics. You never know what's hiding in your coin jar or tucked away in an old drawer. That unassuming copper penny could be your golden ticket. Top 3, we're uncovering the secrets behind a coin that millions of Americans have held in their hands, but only a few know the true value of. We're talking about none other than the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln wheat penny from the year 1957. At first glance, this coin might look like any other old penny. It's copper-colored, it's small, it's got Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front, and 2 stalks of wheat on the back. But let me tell you something, not all 1957 wheat pennies are created equal. Some of them, under the right conditions, have become legendary among collectors, fetching astonishing prices that will leave you speechless. So get comfortable, pay close attention, and let's explore what makes the 1957 wheat penny so special, and why one version of this coin has reached a value most people wouldn't believe. Let's start with a little history. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series ran from 1909 to 1958, and the 1957 issue came near the very end of that run. These coins were minted during a booming post-war America, a time when families were growing, highways were being built, and the country was looking toward the future. Yet despite all that change, the humble penny remained almost untouched, still bearing Lincoln's face, and still spreading the message of unity, freedom, and national pride. In 1957, these pennies were struck at 2 main mints, the Philadelphia Mint, with no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, with a small d under the date. Between the two, over 1.3 billion wheat pennies were minted that year. Yes, that's billion with a B. So, you might be thinking, how could something so common be worth anything more than a cent? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and most importantly, errors. Let's talk about what makes certain 1957 pennies extremely rare and valuable. First up, the double die error. This is one of the most exciting types of mint errors that collectors look for. A double die happens when the coin is struck more than once with slightly misaligned dies, causing a doubling effect. You might notice it in the date, the lettering in Liberty, or the phrase, "In God We Trust." The doubling is usually subtle, but under a magnifying glass, it's unmistakable, and incredibly valuable. Then, we have off-center strikes. These occur when the blank coin isn't perfectly aligned in the press, leading to a design that's shifted or even cut off. A 1957 wheat penny with a 10%, 20%, or even 50% off-center strike can be worth many times its face value. And if you're lucky enough to find one that still shows the full date, that's a jackpot. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting: wrong planchet errors. Occasionally, a 1957 wheat penny was struck on a planchet meant for another coin, such as a dime or a foreign coin. These are incredibly rare and make each affected coin essentially one of a kind. Imagine finding a wheat penny that's lighter, smaller, or made of silver-toned metal. That's the kind of discovery that sends shockwaves through the coin collecting community, and we can't forget about condition. In the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. Most 1957 pennies were used in everyday transactions. They've been in pockets, piggy banks, and cash registers for decades. They're scratched, dull, and worn down, but a 1957 penny that was never circulated? One that has sharp details, a brilliant shine, and not a single blemish? That's what collectors call a mint state coin, and those are graded using a scale from 1 to 70. The closer a coin is to 70, the more valuable it becomes, especially if it also has an error or unusual characteristic. Now imagine combining a rare mint error with a mint state grade of MS 67 or higher. That's the kind of coin that serious collectors dream about. People spend years, even decades, searching through old coin rolls, buying penny jars at estate sales, and attending auctions just for the chance to find one of these elusive treasures. And it's not just a hobby; for many, it's a full-time passion. Because every now and then, someone hits the jackpot, and speaking of jackpots, there's a reason you stayed with us until now. You wanted to know just how much one of these rare 1957 Lincoln wheat pennies can be worth, right? Well, hold on to your seats, because one rare 1957 wheat penny, with the perfect combination of condition, error, and rarity, has been sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $540,000. Yes. 1 cent, turned into over $500,000. That's the magic of coin collecting. That's the reason we check every pocketful of change. Because hidden treasures aren't always buried underground, sometimes, they're right in your hand. Top 4, we're taking a deep dive into a piece of American history that you might have held in your hand without even realizing its value: the 1945 Lincoln wheat penny. Yes, that tiny copper coin from the end of World War II might seem common, but it carries a legacy that stretches far beyond its face value. And if you're lucky enough to have the right version of this coin, it could be worth a small fortune. So get comfortable, turn up the volume, and stay with us until the very end, because the story behind the 1945 wheat penny is one you absolutely don't want to miss. Let's rewind to 1945. The world was changing. World War II was coming to an end. Soldiers were returning home, industries were shifting back to peacetime production, and the United States Mint was still striking billions of pennies for circulation. During that year, the Lincoln wheat penny continued to be one of the most commonly used coins in America. It featured the classic image of Abraham Lincoln on the front, and the iconic wheat ears on the reverse, a symbol of strength, unity, and prosperity. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In 1945, the penny was made from 95% copper and 5% zinc, a return to its pre-war composition after the one-year switch to steel in 1943. These coins were produced in massive numbers. More than 1 billion coins were minted between Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. So, yes, they are technically common. But don't let that fool you. Even in the most common years, there are always exceptions, and that's where the treasure lies. So what makes a 1945 wheat penny rare and valuable? It comes down to three powerful factors: condition, minting errors, and unexpected variations. Let's start with condition. Most of the 1945 pennies you'll find today have seen decades of use. They're scratched, worn, and discolored. But a coin that was carefully stored, never circulated, and preserved in mint state condition? That's a different story. Coins graded MS-65, MS-66, or even higher are rare, and collectors pay big for pristine examples with sharp details and full original luster. Now, let's talk about what really excites collectors: errors. One of the most famous and desirable types of minting errors is the double die error. This occurs when the coin is struck twice by the die, but slightly off from the original alignment, resulting in a shadowy doubling effect. On the 1945 penny, doubling can occur in the date, the lettering, or Lincoln's profile. These errors are often very subtle but can dramatically increase a coin's value when authenticated. Then there are off-center strikes, coins that were not properly aligned during the minting process, causing part of the design to be missing or shifted. A 1945 penny struck 10% to 50% off-center with a visible date? That's a rare find and highly valuable to collectors. Another rare error is the die crack or cut error, where a piece of the die actually breaks off and leaves a raised blob of metal on the coin. These errors create unique, one-of-a-kind coins that are like fingerprints. No two are exactly the same. And the Holy Grail? That would be a wrong planchet error, a 1945 penny that was accidentally struck on a blank meant for another coin, like a dime or a foreign denomination. These coins are extremely rare and often go unnoticed by untrained eyes, but to a serious collector, they are worth their weight in gold, or in this case, copper. All these errors and conditions combine to create an incredible market for collectors. People across the world search through old jars, estate sales, and coin rolls hoping to find the one coin that stands out. Because with the right error, in the right condition, from the right mint, a 1945 Lincoln wheat penny becomes much more than pocket change. And now, for the moment you've all been waiting for. It may sound unbelievable, but a highly rare 1945 Lincoln wheat penny, featuring a stunning mint error, in near-perfect uncirculated condition, has been valued and sold for an extraordinary $590,000, yes. One single penny. From 1945. Worth more than $500,000. That's the thrill of numismatics. That's why collectors search tirelessly. Because hidden in plain sight, in the smallest denomination of American currency, could be a coin with a story, and a price tag to match. If you enjoyed this video and love learning about rare coins, surprising values, and how everyday change can become a treasure, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell icon so you never miss another discovery. We've got plenty more rare coin stories coming your way. Top 5. In this video, we're going to uncover the secrets behind one of the most fascinating pennies ever minted in the United States, the 1949 Lincoln wheat penny. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a penny. What could possibly be so special about it? Well, get ready to look at your spare change a little differently, because the 1949 wheat penny is more than just a coin. It's a piece of post-war American history, a collector's challenge, and in very rare cases, a life-changing discovery. So sit back, relax, and watch closely, because this isn't just about a coin. It's about what makes ordinary objects extraordinary. Let's start with the background. The year was 1949. The United States had just come out of the turbulence of World War II. Soldiers were home, families were rebuilding, and the country was entering a new era of optimism and innovation. In the midst of this transition, the U.S. Mint continued producing the trusty Lincoln wheat penny, a design that had been circulating since 1909. The obverse side, of course, features the timeless image of Abraham Lincoln, and the reverse side displays the classic wheat ears, symbols of unity and growth. But 1949 was no ordinary minting year. That year, pennies were struck at 3 locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, marked with a D; and San Francisco, marked with an S. Together, they minted hundreds of millions of coins, So yes, many are still floating around out there, but here's where things get exciting. While the majority of 1949 wheat pennies are common in circulated condition, a select few have become incredibly rare and highly valuable, and it all comes down to three major factors: errors, varieties, and preservation. Let's talk about errors first, because this is where a regular penny becomes a true rarity. Point one of the most famous errors to look for on a 1949 penny is the double die error. This occurs when the die that strikes the coin is misaligned, causing certain parts of the design, like the date, the word Liberty, or even Lincoln's profile, to appear doubled. These aren't printing issues or damage, they're genuine minting mistakes that turn a 1-cent coin into a collector's dream. Next up, we have off-center strikes. If the coin wasn't perfectly aligned during production, you'll get a penny where part of the design is missing or shifted. The more dramatic the off-center error, especially if the date is still visible, the more collectors are willing to pay, but that's not all. There are also wrong planchet errors, where the penny is accidentally struck on a blank meant for another coin, like a dime or a foreign denomination. These extremely rare mishaps are often lighter, smaller, or even silver in color, and when authenticated, they can be worth a fortune. Another thing to look for is RPMs, or repunched mint marks. Sometimes the mint mark was stamped more than once, slightly off the first time. These subtle quirks are like Easter eggs for collectors, and they increase the value significantly. Now, let's talk condition. A 1949 penny that's been through decades of circulation will show its age, scratches, fading, and general wear. But a coin that has been perfectly preserved, never used, never touched, and graded mint state, MS, by a professional service, is extremely rare. The highest graded coins, such as those rated MS 66 or MS 67, are especially sought after because of their pristine luster and flawless detail. Imagine combining a high-grade uncirculated condition with a dramatic mint error. That's the kind of coin collectors dream of finding. People all over the world are scouring coin rolls, flea markets, and family heirlooms, hoping to stumble upon one of these rare 1949 wheat pennies. And every once in a while, someone does. Now, you've been patient, and it's time for the big reveal. While most 1949 pennies might fetch a few dollars, or even a couple hundred in excellent condition, there is one version of this coin, featuring an ultra-rare minting error, preserved in near-perfect condition, that has been valued at an unbelievable $580,000. Yes. A 1-cent coin, from 1949, selling for over $500,000, incredible, right? That's the power of numismatics. It's not just about the money. It's about the history, the hunt, the excitement of discovering something extraordinary in something so small. So the next time you come across an old penny, don't overlook it. Take a moment. Check the date. Look closely. You never know, you might be holding a piece of history, and maybe even a fortune. Top 6, we're diving into a true classic of American coinage, one that's often overlooked but could be worth a small fortune if you have the right one. We're talking about the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln wheat penny from the year 1953. It might look like just another old copper penny, but what if I told you that one specific version of this humble little coin has sold for an absolutely staggering price? Stick around, because this isn't just a story about a penny, it's a story about American history, rare errors, and the kind of once-in-a-lifetime discovery every coin collector dreams of. Let's go back to 1953. It was a time when televisions were just beginning to enter homes. Dwight D. Eisenhower had taken office as president, and post-war America was booming with optimism and change. Amidst this vibrant era, the U.S. Mint continued producing the ever-faithful Lincoln wheat penny, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. The 1953 wheat penny came out of 3 mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, marked with a D; and San Francisco, marked with an S. Together, they struck hundreds of millions of pennies. So yes, it's true, most 1953 wheat pennies are still out there, and they're not exactly rare. But here's the twist: a small handful of these coins carry something incredibly unique. They either avoided circulation entirely, were struck with unexpected errors, or were preserved so perfectly that they became numismatic legends. and that's what we're going to uncover right now. Let's begin with the basics. Condition matters. The vast majority of 1953 pennies have been through the ringer. They've been jingling in pockets, resting in drawers, traded at candy shops, and passed down through generations. Most of these coins are heavily worn, discolored, and no longer sharp in detail, but those rare few that were never used, those kept sealed, protected, and untouched, are what collectors call mint state coins. These are graded on a scale up to MS 70, and coins that reach MS 65 or higher are considered top-tier collectibles. Now, condition is just one piece of the puzzle. Let's talk about where the real excitement begins: mint errors. Because this is what turns a 1-cent coin into a 5-figure or even 6-figure collectible. One of the most thrilling errors you can find on a 1953 penny is the double die obverse. That means the coin was struck twice with a misaligned die, creating a doubling effect on the lettering or the date. Imagine seeing the numbers 1953 appear twice, faintly shadowed, but unmistakably doubled. That's the kind of coin that makes collectors' hearts race. Then you have the off-center strike error. If the penny wasn't lined up properly in the press, the design might be pushed to one side, cutting off parts of Lincoln's portrait or the words, "In God We Trust." The more dramatic the shift, and the more of the date you can still see, the more valuable the coin becomes. There's also the possibility of a wrong planchet error, where the penny was mistakenly struck on a blank intended for a dime or foreign coin. These are exceptionally rare, and if you find one, you're holding a one-of-a-kind piece. Literally. No two are ever exactly alike. Let's not forget about RPMs, repunched mint marks. These occur when the mint mark was stamped more than once in a slightly different position. To the untrained eye, it might look like a tiny smudge. But to a collector, that smudge could mean serious money. Now combine any of those rare errors with mint state preservation, and you've got a recipe for something truly special. A 1953 penny that has both a dramatic minting error and is graded at MS 66 or above is not just a collectible, it's a treasure. Collectors all around the world are constantly on the lookout for 1953 wheat pennies in high grades with these rare flaws. Estate sales, coin shows, inherited collections, and even old piggy banks could be hiding one of these gems. And now, for the part you've been waiting for, the reason you're still watching. While most 1953 Lincoln wheat pennies are worth a few cents to a few dollars depending on condition, there is one known example, featuring an ultra-rare mint error and preserved in pristine condition, that has sold for an incredible $500,000. That's right. A single 1-cent coin, worth $500,000. It's wild. It's real. And it's proof that treasures don't always sparkle. Sometimes, they come in copper. So the next time you come across an old penny, before you toss it in a jar or pass it off as change, look again. Look closely. Because you never know. You might be holding history in your hand, and possibly, a life-changing discovery. Top 7 and last rare coin, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating pieces of American numismatic history, the 1958 Lincoln wheat penny. At first glance, it might seem like just a small, copper coin, but don't be fooled. This penny carries with it decades of stories, mystery, and a secret value that can astonish even the most seasoned collectors. If you think pennies are just spare change, think again, because this little coin from 1958 could hold the key to an incredible fortune. Now, let's set the scene. The year was 1958, post-war America was evolving rapidly. Rock and roll was taking over the airwaves, the space race was heating up, and the Lincoln wheat penny, a design that had been circulating since 1909, was still making its way into the pockets of millions. The wheat penny's design, with Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front and 2 stalks of wheat on the back, is a symbol of American heritage and resilience. But what makes the 1958 penny stand out from all the others? For starters, this penny was minted during a transitional time. The U.S. Mint produced millions of pennies in 1958 across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with mint marks indicating their origin. While most of these pennies are common and worth only a few cents in circulated condition, the real magic happens when you uncover the rare exceptions, the errors, the unusual varieties, and those exceptionally preserved specimens that have survived the decades nearly flawless. So what exactly makes a 1958 Lincoln wheat penny so rare and valuable? Let's talk about errors first. Among collectors, certain minting mistakes can transform a humble penny into a collector's dream. One of the most prized errors from this year is the famous double die obverse. This happens when the coin is struck twice with a slight misalignment, causing the date or the words like "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" to appear doubled or blurry. Spotting this error isn't easy, but for those who do, it's like finding a treasure map. Another fascinating error is the off-center strike. Imagine a penny where Lincoln's face is shifted so far to one side that part of it is missing entirely, or the wheat stalks on the reverse are cut off. These off-center pennies are rare, and their value increases dramatically based on how far off-center the strike is. Then there are wrong planchet errors, where the penny is struck on a blank meant for a different coin, sometimes smaller, sometimes larger, or even made from an entirely different metal. These rare mistakes are incredibly sought after because they are unique, unrepeatable quirks of the minting process. Collectors also keep a keen eye out for repunched mint marks, RPMs. This subtle but fascinating error occurs when the mint mark, such as the D for Denver, is stamped more than once in slightly different places. It might look like a smudge to the untrained eye, but collectors know that these small details can mean big money. Of course, condition is everything. A coin can be rare because of errors, but if it's worn, scratched, or damaged, its value drops significantly. That's why finding a 1958 wheat penny in mint state, with its original shine, crisp details, and no signs of wear, is like discovering a needle in a haystack. Coins graded MS-65 or higher by professional grading companies become the crown jewels of any collection. When you combine these rare errors with perfect preservation, you get a coin that not only tells a story but also commands enormous prices in the market. Collectors and investors worldwide are always on the lookout for these special pennies. Whether hunting at coin shows, digging through old collections, or searching through rolls of coins, the thrill of finding a rare 1958 Lincoln wheat penny is unbeatable. So, what's the price tag on such a remarkable coin? While the average 1958 Lincoln wheat penny might be worth just a few cents or a couple of dollars, that rare gem, with an error like a double die or off-center strike in pristine mint condition, has been valued at an astounding $450,000. That's right. A single 1-cent coin from 1958, with the right error and condition, could be worth nearly $500,000. It's a mind-blowing reminder that sometimes, the smallest things can hold the biggest surprises. So the next time you come across a 1958 penny, don't just toss it aside. Look closely. Check the date. Examine the details. You might just be holding a piece of history, and a fortune, in the palm of your hand. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare coins, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more incredible stories and discoveries, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an opportunity to learn about hidden treasures right in your pocket. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting. Keep checking your change. You never know when a tiny penny might turn into a priceless treasure.